Here we go.
All right, welcome to the official Misha Sakharoff podcast. And today, the purpose of today's podcast is to dive into Misha's understanding of nutrition. What is raw nutrition, ketogenic carnivore nutrition that Misha's helped so many clients with, and what are the benefits of it? What are the facts behind this? All that kind of stuff, because this is a very challenging topic for people to see because we're so used to just cooking our food. So, Misha, the first question I wanted to ask you is just what is raw carnivore, raw ketogenic carnivore nutrition?
Good question. And hello, everybody. And it's great to be together here in this podcast, webinar, whatever. We will try to keep an easy, not too serious tone here with jokes and errors and faults and basically radically accept them as a part of a conversation. So we are relaxed and easy and ready, right, Max?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So what is raw carnivore nutrition? So basically, the first thing, it's definitely not mainstream. That's the first thing that it is. And the second thing is I would say it's the ultimate act of simplification. Basically, imagine stripping away every colorful package, every fancy label, every modern recipe, and asking, what would my body recognize as real food if I hadn't seen a supermarket? And that's a great question because basically, we are children of the modern age, and most of us, we forgot what our species appropriate nutrition is. Because of what? Because of the greed of the industry, because of the money, because of the 99% of products that are not, that are somehow made by the industry in the supermarket. Well, I don't know about exact, is it 99% or 95%, but it's around that, right? That's our main problem. And I can tell you that money, the things that are led by greed and money in the industry, not necessarily lead us towards health. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Just I want you guys to think about it. Okay? So basically, a raw carnivore nutrition is the practice of eating exclusively animal foods. And when I say exclusively, I would like to talk, or maybe you will, if I forget, Max, I want to talk about adaptation, what adaptation means. And there's a different
Okay.
kinds of adaptation. Because when we say exclusively, we need to define why do we do that? Every one of us need to answer the question why first, because the whys will be different for a person that have a 4-stage aggressive cancer that I'm working with, or some kind of metabolic syndrome, diabetes, 1 or 2, or problems with the bone density, or inflammation, arthritis, or whatever. So people will have different answers to the why question. And depending on this answer, could grade this exclusively or not exclusively. And I will tell you a little bit why. So
Mm.
basically, what I say now, because we are defining raw carnivore nutrition, right? It's a practice of eating exclusively animal foods. And here I mean not just meat, but also fat, also organs, sometimes eggs, raw dairy, sometimes raw dairy, uncooked. In other words, no plant foods, no processing, no heating. And very often when people come to my program, well, sometimes, not very often, they start asking me, Misha, and what about nuts? And I'm saying, what do you think? Is it plant foods? Yes. Well, then no. But again, and then they're asking me, okay, but what about, and then, so, it's very, very often things like that because, it's very new for people. It's very new. The idea is very new. But basically, when I tell them why, in order to avoid anti-nutrient triggers of indigestion, of inflammation, and things like that, they start to understand my idea. But basically, the
Right.
idea is like that. It's a radical return to what I call a natural evolutionary strategy in the pursuit of anti-aging and longevity and
Hmm.
health. So this approach, it's not about being extreme for the sake of it. And this is pretty crucial. It's about giving your metabolism the cleanest input, unclouded by modern food engineering that I just talked about in the supermarket, and letting your physiology do what it was designed to do. And that's what we want, both as athletes, as just normal human beings, as people that want to live and have some whys in life to uncover and to express ourselves and have energy for this.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned so like the anti-nutrients of plant foods and things like that. Um, I know that's something that really clicked for me when I learned from you. So
Yeah.
I was wondering, what are some other, what would you consider to be like the most important facts that support this idea of eating this way?
Well, basically, you mean like in evolutionary perspective or like in the perspective of maintaining health or longevity?
Well,
What do you
I
think
guess, I guess
most?
you could say like every topic, and this is something I learned from another mentor, that in any field there are basically pieces of information that you could say they're at the bottom of the pyramid you're building on. So if
Ah, okay.
it's like the most important data that if you pull this data out, everything else you thought you knew kind of falls off.
I understand. I understand. Well, there's some like reasons, right? And there's some reasons they are pretty different, some of them. And the most important, I believe, as I told you before, as I mentioned before, it's our to understand what are our species specific or species appropriate nutrition. And that is evolutionary design. I mean, we have a set of DNA that is the same for the human beings, for the most of it. And I believe the biggest difference can be around 2.5% of the DNA from one. So mostly we are designed the same way, like 98% of our DNA for the human beings are the same. There's some fluctuations, but they're not defining our physiology basically, right? So our biology was shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of eating animals, often raw, in the absence of agriculture or grain mills. So basically, this thing started 10,000 years ago in Egypt in order to feed slaves. That's how
Agriculture.
agricultural revolution started, right? So we must start by studying our daily automatic patterns, okay, to propose an effective dietary strategy against aging, for health, for resilience, and just for being energetical human beings. So raw carnivore simply aligns with this ancient template. And the second thing is elimination of anti-nutrients. And this has a very big importance for health for many people that have, for example, autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is one of the biggest things, is one of the hardest things to work with. Actually, very often harder than to work with aggressive cancers.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Autoimmunity.
so autoimmunity. So anti-nutrients, they are triggers of autoimmunity. So by removing plants, you avoid compounds that act like those autoimmune triggers or the anti-U molecules like lectins, oxalates,
What
phytates.
for
Um,
people that maybe don't understand this, and I don't know if I fully comprehend so the autoimmune idea is that your immune system is kind of attacking itself. Can you explain like why it does
yeah,
that?
yeah. So most plant species in the world are not eatable, largely due to the toxins they produce. So the process of domestication of those plants has reduced the levels of these toxic compounds over time. So the plant foods we eat today are much less toxic than their wild relatives. Um, but um, so basically, compounds like anti-nutrients, they very commonly found in crop plants that interfere with the absorption, and they interfere with the absorption of nutrients by the human body. That's the thing. So basically, they act as chemical defense systems that were developed by plants millions of years ago to protect themselves from other species. But they still cause harm due to uh, biosimilarity of their cell structure and function to our own systems and cells. And there's a theory called,
What's the biosimilarity mean?
yeah, it's a theory basically that states that all humans, animals, insects, and fungi are closely related in their cell structure and DNA. So plant toxins can affect all. We did not evolve to eat too much of any one plant because plants fight back. And basically, when we remove the anti-nutrients and toxins, and it can be actually done from plant foods, sometimes only partially, but by the basically pre-processing, like drying, soaking, sprouting, like frying, baking, boiling, fermentation. But we did it. But some of them probably were not practiced by the early Homo erectus, but it came later when we started agricultural revolution 10,000 years ago. And because I believe it's in, there's a body of evidence through anthropological studies that tells about this. So I believe, and the science that I'm using believes that therefore they should not be a part of an evolutionary strategy for treating aging, longevity, and health. Okay?
Hmm.
Um, so basically, when we remove them, it makes our nutrition simpler, and the body uses less energy to counteract to those anti-nutrients. So we actually, our energy coefficients come closer to one. I'm an engineer, so I'm not a doctor. So I'm interested in leveraging highly efficient body, basically to help people leverage a highly efficient body. Therefore, we're talking about energy coefficient closer to one, meaning that we are using almost all the energy we get to do for some needs without losing it, most of it.
Right.
So
Uh,
this effectiveness is a key.
yeah, the question that comes to mind now is what makes raw different than just normal carnivore? Because a lot of people who maybe have done the carnivore diet are like, they're probably saying, oh, yeah, I agree with all of this. So, what's the difference between just being carnivore and then going the further step to being a raw, doing the raw carnivore?
Okay. Basically, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Um, uh, but one of the most important are um, deterioration of protein quality because of warming, uh, because of warming up the foods. That's basically the thing. Um, when you heat up the foods, the protein has some um, temperature where it degrades, and so basically it becomes much harder to absorb, and that's the most important part of it. That's the most important part of it. Another part of it, so basically the bioavailability we're talking about, the bioavailability of protein becomes much lower, and this temperature ranges from um, 68 to around 80 for different kinds of proteins. That's one of the aspects. And the second
And
part, yeah.
for people that don't understand bioavailability, could you explain that just like briefly?
Bioavailability, it's the ability of our body to use protein for building cells, basically. And it
Right.
has to be done in a manner where as little as possible energy is used in this process. So the effectiveness is maximum, again, closer to one. So
Mm,
basically, my idea is if you eat raw meat and if your body is, again, adapted to process it, because, um, you know, you need, but basically, um, we need um, different things to process the food. We need HCl, hydrochloric acid, um, um, in the stomach to process
mm,
food. We need some ferments um, that are coming into our gut after the stomach in order to break down proteins. This process of breaking down starts in the stomach and then comes in the upper parts of the gut, and so on and so on. And the synthesis
mm.
of those things takes energy. Actually, it's also one of the things that is um, that is dependent on our breathing, the quality
Right.
of our breathing. That's one of the synergetic effects that I really love. But we're going to talk about this in another podcast about breathing. So now we talk about nutrition. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So
so
the
yeah,
idea
yeah,
that the breathing allows you to absorb nutrients more easily is what you're saying?
yeah. By basically the way we breathe allows us to produce HCl most efficiently,
Mm,
um, to break down the foods in the stomach, but also produce hormones and ferments much more effectively. And that's
right.
interesting. And one of the things that regulates it is carbon dioxide content um, in the blood, in arterial blood,
Yep.
and nitric oxide, and some those hormones, or what we call yeah, hormones that regulate it, or parahormones that are made um, in the course of metabolism. So
Mm.
yeah, but we talked about the whys. Why is raw meat
Yeah, right. Those
more?
facts.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing is that I really want to talk about shortly is because you become satiated much faster when you eat raw. You cannot overeat when you eat raw. And that's an aspect that is not really often talked about. You cannot overeat raw. Believe me, you can overeat um, nice ribeye that is seared and perfectly, and it's raw inside, but it's seared on the outside. And this triggers our system to eat fast, to not really pay attention to the satiation. And the satiation signal, that's a hormone called leptin that downstream regulates many, many processes in our body before insulin, before cortisol, actually. So it's very crucial that our leptin sensitivity is perfect. And
So
by
like being
over,
able to listen to your body when it tells you you're hungry or you're
yeah.
full, basically.
So
Yeah.
when you eat raw, and I'm eating slowly,
Mm,
um, it's one of our aspect. On our protocol, I'm always in our groups, in our circles, our
hmm
programs. I always talk about the rules of eating. And one of the rules of eating that I defined is very crucial to eat slowly because that can allow for leptin sensitivity to become more effective. And leptin sensitivity, when we're eating, our satiation works in a way that it has a lag of around 10 minutes. Meaning, if you are eating fast, during those 10 minutes, you can overeat a lot. And if it's very tasty, seared meat that we are evolutionarily like built up to eat, uh, we will, because of greed or because of enjoyment, you can choose the aspects that you like most. But anyway, we will overeat, always overeat. And we will always make it harder for our body to process the food. So our energy coefficient will go lower, lower, and lower because we overeat. And we have to actually expel some of this food material
Yeah.
without gaining anything from it. So the effectiveness go down when you overeat. And when you eat raw foods and when you adapt to this in a way that you like it, makes very big difference.
Right. Yeah, you're not forcing yourself to do something that I get that a lot when I'm doing the raw food is like, how are you doing that? And of course, a nice seared steak still tastes great, but like I really look forward to eating the raw food. It just tastes like what my body wants, and I feel great doing it too.
But that's energy. And that's a very important fact. That's another one. Because exactly, that's the energy.
Right.
Because if you have experienced a period where you're eating raw foods and you just experience that the energy is very stable, it's like, wow. If you're a person that want to create something, the creativity is high, and you really want to do something in this world, and that's what always it's a big driver for me because I really want to do a lot of things, do tennis professionally, play 2 hours every day. I play music around 2 hours every day. I really love those things. That's another
Ah,
programs that I do. So, and I really want to have stable energy for this. So that's where the idea of having stable energy starts prevailing over your psychological bindings to some kind of carbohydrates.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. The dependencies. Now, that's a great point.
Yeah, I started looking at food as this is what I need to give my body so I can feel better and not as just another enjoyment piece of my life that I mean, I still enjoy it, but I'm not going out of my way to just be super sad, like super stimulated with the food because now for me that part of my life is so simple. Maybe this is another benefit, but everything else in life feels more real to me, more enjoyable. My relationship, my conversations, and like all of that stuff. By not having the stimulating fast food and those kind of things, I feel a lot more, um, yeah, just present with people. And your systems help me do that a lot. I do have a question as far as you personally, your story. I'm assuming you didn't come out of the womb just eating raw food. So, like, how did you come to these kind of
Mm.
conclusions and finding these things out? Because I know you have a long history of working with different clients and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that started like when I was over 35. So I am like all of people in this um, I entered a new period of my life, which basically I started facing, so to say, increasing symptoms of physiological decline and degeneration of the body. Um, that is called, and basically in human life and as in life of all mammals, this period is called the post-reproductive period. It's where the natural health ceases to exist. And then we learn by different ways, sometimes hard ways, that we need to take care of our health. And because before 35, we mostly take it for granted, right? And this situation takes many by surprise because we always think that we'll always remain young. So aging of the body is very difficult for many of us to accept and to understand. But so basically, that's exactly what I experienced. I experienced heart failure because I used to do things the more the better. I thought always that it was the more the better. So I overtrained. And as you know, there's an effect for athletes that is called the overtraining effect. Um, so Paul Maffetone, I don't know if you know MAF method. He
No.
defined it very much. He's an athletic trainer, very, very known. MAF method. So he described it, and it helped me very much to understand what happened with me, because I I was falling down on the tennis court, and people were afraid, basically both playing with me and coaching me, because they experienced a couple of times that I was just collapsing on court with heart failure. I was doing it while doing mountain biking. And the last time I was picked up by ambulance, it was like 5 times
Wow.
during 1.5 year period. And the last time, the guy in the hospital, he said, we did not find anything, but next time you get picked up, we will find out for sure. We will. And my thought was, you will find out, but the body will be cold.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I take full responsibility in my own hands, and I do the change. So that's basically how I started. And then I started working with ketogenic diet. It took some years, and
When did you stumble upon like raw food, raw nutrition? Was that later on in your journey? Like
yes,
who was the person you read it about or anything like
yeah,
that?
it was a Wonder Planets.
Oh,
It was,
Agenus.
yeah, Argenis. Yeah, it was
Okay.
him. I was very inspired. Also, the bear, I was inspired by. So, and I started
What's that one? The bear?
the bear. What's his name? Was
That was like a name he went by, some guy?
yeah. I don't remember, but
Okay.
those two were the primary. And basically, also, I knew a lot about. I was reading about Eskimo cultures from. In Russia, we also have people that eating like that in the north. And that's what I started. I was inspired by the Eskimos and by the people from the north. So when I started practicing it, it was like 7 years ago, around 7 years ago.
Hmm.
I started practicing what we call straganina. And straganina, it's basically all kinds of, all parts of meat that is frozen, and then we slice it from frozen with a good butcher knife, like
Oh,
12 inches knife. I have a good butcher knife. And that's what I'm doing twice a day together with my girlfriend. It's basically, you can call it carpaccio. That's
yeah.
carpaccio.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Okay.
basically what it is. So we have all kinds of internal organs that we eat raw, from testicles um, to, well, brains to liver and different kinds of, um, well, everything, basically everything. Yeah.
Yeah. What I think the guy you were talking about was Bear Grylls, the survival show guy.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that he did that. That makes sense.
Oh, what was his name? I'm not sure. Bear Grylls? Maybe. Yeah.
He was the
Maybe.
guy that had the TV show where he'd be in the wild and he'd be like surviving out there. Or is it somebody else?
Mm,
Might be that guy. But
was
yeah,
it that? Well, yeah.
maybe someone else.
Well, he
The
was
great
called the bear. No. His name is Osley Stanley.
Osley Stanley.
Osley Stanley, the bear.
Ah,
Osley
okay.
Osley Stanley. Yeah.
Huh. Okay, very interesting. I never heard of him.
Osley Stanley. Yeah, the bear. Yeah, so he has a lot of very important ideas and thoughts. So yeah, they inspired me, and that's how I started. And then, I started to extend my range by eating not only meat, by also eating all the crazy stuff that I just wanted to try, simply because I never tried it before. So it's also about being, uh, inventive, and like, ask yourself, oh, did you try this? No, never. Well, shouldn't we do it?
Yeah, it's definitely for me been the same kind of. You were the first person I saw doing it. Um, that really challenged my way of thinking. But I had already kind of learned that meat felt better for me. So it wasn't as far of a curtain to pull for me. It was just like, oh, okay, I'll try this. And I had already heard people in the carnivore world on the internet talking about eating raw organ meats because the nutrient absorption was better. And so it just made sense. So, like, why would you eat the organ meats raw, but not the normal meats raw and stuff? And then um, eggs
Also,
also.
yeah, also
I was gonna say,
fermented
yeah,
meats.
go ahead.
Also
Go ahead.
fermented meats. Yeah,
Oh, like the where you let it sit out for a while, or
fermented liver. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hmm,
Also that, not only raw.
hmm. Yeah, that's is that like the high
High
meat, I
meat,
guess?
high meat, and I can tell you that's exactly what it is.
And do
It's
you do
high.
that
Yes, yes, every day, every day.
every day? How do you even make that? Like, do you let it sit in a cabinet, or I've tried doing it in the past, but my I was living with 5 or 6 roommates, and they were like, "This is not gonna happen in our house."
Uh,
So,
no,
uh,
you have to open it in order to mix it every day, because it has to
yeah.
be aerobic fermentation, not anaerobic, but aerobic fermentation. So you have to open it in a place where the others are not close. So it's
Go outside.
uh, yeah, go outside and things like that. So, but my girlfriend does it for me. She eats it too. So, and
Wow.
we are taking like a half a kilo at a time in 3 glasses. It has to be like a half a liter glass. So you only fill one half of a glass with this meat, because it has to be a lot of air. And you have to open it and just mix it with air every day. And
And
then
then when will you eat it? Like a few days later, or
I start eating a few days later, and then just eating one piece like this, one piece like
and the
this.
rest of your diet is just normal fresh meat?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically like
What's the
it.
benefit of the high meat? Like, is it the enzymes or
Yeah,
what?
yeah. It's enzymes, and it's your bacterial flora. We don't want to be it very, very different, like many different kinds, because many different kinds, it equals with wars. We don't want the territorial wars and aggression into our guts. We want peace and quiet. And that means that there are only some, some kinds of bacteria are allowed to dominate fully.
Mm.
And that's what we are doing, basically. So we have few bacteria there, but no harmful bacteria, and only bacteria that really provides for full, uh, you know, to fully absorb the vitamins, so to stop the leaky gut, to stop chronic inflammation. That's basically what we want. And every time I eat, I start always with this little piece, and I taste it. I like it now. It's, again, that's adaptation.
Hmm.
You see, you have to have a leading thoughts that you want to thrive. And in order to thrive, you need to learn something new.
Mm.
And that's
Right.
basically what adaptation is.
So
Because we
well, yeah,
don't
what do
want
you
to
mean when you
use
say adaptation? Like, is it your body's getting used to certain ways of eating, or
both your body, your like psychological, um, uh, so how do you feel? You need to adapt to feel that it makes you that it's good for you.
yeah.
And this thought is not predominating from the start. I can tell you. So you need to learn this, and then it has to be long term. You need to understand, you need to be aware first, and you need to create a process where you can sustain it. So when it got sustained, you then start adaptation. But talking, that's one part of adaptation. Another part of adaptation is adaptation to burn fats, to what we call lipolysis instead of glycolysis, where glucose dominate at the primary fuel for all body cells. And when we shift to ketosis, that's lipolysis, that breaking down fats in order to get energy. And I'm writing a book right now where I defined 4 stages of adaptation. You guys on the program, you got some parts of the book, some chapters. I send you both in Russian for Russian program and for English program. But that's basically, adaptation is different things. Basically, adaptation is the power of slow process.
Yeah.
Where you don't use power of will anymore. But everything happens because you enjoy it. And you need to cool down and to slow down in order to make it work and to radically accept the slowness of process, of the mastery. Basically, we call it in music and in tennis, I call it effortless mastery. So it's when we stop using willpower. And life becomes so much better.
Wow. Well, we're getting close to probably past 30 minutes, and I know we wanted to keep this relatively short. I think you really gave people the basics of what it is. And, even though I didn't ask you about the benefits, I think we talked a lot about the benefits of eating in a way that your body absorbs it and feeling the energetic effect of that, letting your body recover and eat more primally, more aligned with how we've maybe evolved over the hundreds of thousands of years. So is there any last thing you would say to somebody who's just hearing about this? Maybe they're curious, like they want to try it out. Do you recommend they just jump into it? I know you have a program that you're helping people with too. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and we can close it out.
Yeah, first I can tell you some practical things because, people want some practical things. So they can start implementing some of the ideas. And the first one, remember, respect the transition. Switching to raw carnivore can feel intense. Your body needs time to shift from carb dependency to fat metabolism. Adaptation is a slow transitional process. So keep it in mind. Okay, project it as something that will help you to live healthy life for many, many years forward. And then it will be easier. So another tip is to prioritize fatty cuts and prioritize organs. Muscle meat alone is not enough for health. And we don't want fitness, right? We want fitness plus health. It's a very big difference. I can make a full podcast about the difference between fitness and fitness plus health.
That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, so again, include suet, marrow, liver, and other organs for micronutrients. The third one, there's 5 of them. The third one, eat slowly and mindfully. Slow eating and leptin sensitivity, which is downstream have connection to all the physiological processes, are intrinsically connected together. Slow eating and leptin sensitivity, basically your ability to be satiated fully and long term. That's what leptin sensitivity is about. It's not just a slogan. This is metabolic reprogramming. Keep it in mind. Another tip, number 4, don't drink large amounts during meals. This dilutes digestive enzymes. And I specifically recommend paying attention to this very, very simple habit for people that already have some metabolic problems, health problems, because your health begins with your gut, and your gut health begins with effectiveness of the digestion processes in your stomach and in your gut. So help your stomach and help your small intestine to work efficiently. Don't drink and eat. Don't drink and drive, we know, like half an hour before meals and 1.5 hours after meals for people that have somehow suboptimal health. Okay? And the closing one, let go of guilt and let go of dogma, because food is not morality. If you slip, if you fall off the wagon, adjust, learn something new, become more aware, erase, and keep doing the right things. So basically, the closing thought is I want to wrap with this insight somehow to maintain long-term adherence to nutritional protocol without relying on willpower. We must normalize appetite regulation, appetite, how do you say it? Yeah, and return to evolutionary principles. Raw carnivore nutrition is not about perfection. It's about clarity, simplicity, and giving your biology the conditions it recognizes. You know, and if people ask you whether you have joined a cult, you can smile and say, "No, just a species finally eating in line with its design."
Awesome. Thank you so much, Misha. This was awesome.
Great, great, great. I love you, Max. Thank you for
Uh-huh.
inviting me to this, and it's really it's fun, and I really believe that it will help people to inspire because inspiration, that's what we need. No willpower.
I think so too. I think we can educate a lot of people with these, and this is the start of something really awesome. So really excited
That's
to
great.
do the next one. I think the next one will
Me
be
too.
breathing. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open.
all right,
I love you guys. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Max, for wonderful questions. In
of course,
depth, wonderful questions. Our alone questions were full of insight. So that's really great to work with. So
of
you're
course.
a, very inspirational. Also, your dedication and the program, it's great. It's really great because normally I'm working with people that are uh, long past the this threshold, past reproductional threshold, and they have a lot of different diseases, so they kind of are uh, pushed to the wall to do things, and you are just doing because you somehow became aware that that's the way to do it. And I really think that it's really great. It's really great. So you are, by doing this, you are paving the way for the people in your age, understanding that it's never early to start thinking about your health,
I
and
agree.
don't
Thank you
and
for
not
saying
take
that.
it for granted.
Yeah,
Most of the
yeah.
people do in your age. Yeah.
Why wait
So
till you lose it? Why not just keep it?
yeah, love you, man.
All right,
Thank
Misha. Of
you. Thank you.
course. Thank
See you
you.
soon. See you soon. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.